Hey everyone, and welcome to Already Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Star Trek The Next Generation, Season 1, Episode 21. It is called Symbiosis. So, full spoilers for the episode as always. This one turns into a bit of a PSA. but
Just a tad, yeah.
Well, because the first half of it is just kind of whatever. It's not necessarily that good, it's not necessarily that bad, it's just... There's some humor to be had.
Yeah.
There's some humor to be had. You know, the Starship Enterprise is looking at this sun. They're near this sun that's having flares and whatever, and they're watching this. It's kind of magical, and there's that. But oh wait, distress calls. A distress call on a planet nearby, and it's this planet. Four planets from the sun, and this ship is malfunctioning. They've got a distress call out. And communications are spotty. The solar flares are making all the comms act kind of funky, and it's it's like bad.
Makes sense.
VHS video almost, with distorting and all that. So they try and communicate. They get a little bit closer. They communicate as best they can, and there's some humor to be had because the responses this captain gives from this ship to every question Picard has, because Picard's like, "Oh, what's wrong with your ship? Can you be of assistance?" As Picard always does, and the guy's kind of like. Yeah, things are pretty bad.
Don't really know how to fix it. No. So, yeah, that'd be cool.
Because they figure out what it is, and they're like, okay, well, beam me aboard this coil, this replacement part. And it's like, oh, okay, do you know how to put it on? And just things like that. So there's a good 10-minute chunk of the episode devoted to just talking to these people and then trying to beam them off before the ship explodes. And they eventually beam 4 people off, although they notably beam a container of cargo over first.
And 2 people die because they said this first. Yes.
And we get 4 people, 2 of which are people who own the ship, who are medically speaking a little under the weather, look a bit distressed. Later on, we'll of course come to find out this is just straight up withdrawal symptoms.
Yes, they claim they have a plague.
Yes, they have a plague. And the other 2 were there to sell them the medication for said plague. They're from a different planet. And the way these 2 societies function is that the rich planet does nothing but make this drug, and then the other planet that needs the drug does everything else and makes everything. And when we say everything, we mean everything. Like that is literally their only industry on the rich planet is to make this drug.
They don't even make their own food or anything.
Yeah. So okay, and obviously at this point I'm like, all right. This isn't a plague, this is just withdrawal symptoms. They're addicted to this shit, whatever it is. I think it was Felicium, which I only remember because it sounded like Felicity had a drug named after. Felicium.
Sure, why not?
It's what popped out in my head, alright? The moment where it kind of takes a turn, though, because there's some really funny moments where Crusher, they find out about the plague, and Picard's worried that they've brought a plague on board the ship. Crusher's doing medical scans and all that. There's a great scene where they agree to let the 2 sick guys have their medication, and she watches them take it, and she's got this just look in her face the whole time, and I'm like, oh, she's putting it together. She knows what's going on here.
Yeah, because it's pretty obvious they're getting high on this stuff.
And it's when she comes back to Picard where she explains, people down there don't have a plague. Everyone on the planet is a drug addict, and that is the moment of the episode where it just kind of turns into a PSA. And
yeah,
obviously the message is fine. It's just like it's not a story. It's
have some subtlety. Do a story. Yeah, make it a piece of entertainment, not just a message.
Yeah. It is kind of worth it for some of the first half though, because Picard getting annoyed when they're at the responses. There's a great moment where he asks something and they just go, oh yeah, that's great. That's the response, and Picard just has this look at his face like he's like, I'm ready to leave these people to die. This is too much.
Yeah,
it's too much.
And there's parts in the second half I like the concept of Picard going, yeah, well, it's not really our fault if they're all addicts, is it? It's their own shit to deal with.
I think you're simplifying it a little bit.
No, but that's kind of a large part of what he's doing for it's all the Prime Directive bollocks. Don't be wrong, we'll get into it, but the core of it is like, not really our problem.
I think you're taking the wrong thing away from this though, because the point is that Crusher and to an extent Picard want to intervene but can't because of the Prime Directive, and that's why he wants to avoid it.
Yeah. No, Crusher more so though. I think she talks Picard, the way I got it more anyway is she has to talk Picard into it and into a roundabout way of doing it.
Yeah,
'Cause
but his attitude is not. It's not our problem. Let's just like he still cares. Like you're simplifying this to
sure, but
a dumb degree. Come on now.
I don't think he wants to get involved. Like even if I don't think he actually wants to defy the Prime Directive and go right. Okay, we'll deal with this.
Well, no, he doesn't want to defy
Even
the Prime.
though-
He doesn't want to defy the Prime Directive. That is accurate, but that doesn't mean that he doesn't want to get involved. That is two different things. He just cares more about the Prime Directive than getting involved.
Sure. I just didn't feel like he really wanted to deal with it that much, and it was just Crusher's nagging that it was like, all right, fine, I'll do something.
Sometimes you have a way of boiling things down to the most basic, stupid ways possible.
I'm just saying. Clearly, you found Picard to be more sympathetic than I did.
I think he is more sympathetic. I think. I don't know. Like, there's no nuance to what you're saying here. Like, it's
yes,
more to
no,
that.
I agree. There's no nuance to what I'm saying. I didn't feel there was much nuance.
I'm not saying there is nuance. I'm saying there's no nuance to what you're saying. You're putting it in a very kind of brash way, and I don't think that's not the way he comes across to me in this episode.
See, that's the thing, though. That is the way he comes across to me. He comes across very just simplistic in just it almost at points feels like the Prime Directive is just well, that's a reason not to do it. It's very aware that you know what these are this planets, their culture. Just because we look down on it and they're all addicts, that it's not really his problem.
He uses it that way the second time when he brings it up, where he won't give them the replacement parts. The idea that that'll kind of force them into... Because one of the things that comes up, of course, is that the rich planet actually eventually like stop demanding payment, and they're like, hey, we'll just give you it to free, you can pay us later. And the reason for that is your classic drug dealer kind of trope. They don't want them to realise that it's just withdrawal symptoms. They want them to think that they still need it.
Yeah.
So they don't want them to go so long that they might realise that they don't actually have any use for them. And Picard, confronting him about this, acknowledges that he can't do anything about it because that would be interfering. This is where I disagree with you. I think he clearly wants to, he just can't. And then later on, when they're about to beam everyone back down to where they want to go, he says, no, we're not giving you replacement parts for your ship, even though he previously promised them, and he promised that he'd even have the engineers install them for them, because this is his way of kind of circumventing things and forcing them to eventually realise what's true, is that they don't need this. It'll be painful, you'll have withdrawal symptoms, but they'll come to this realisation on their own in some capacity. And arguably it's the right thing to do as well, because if their ships were failing and they never showed up, then this was what would happen anyway. If anything, he's just kind of... It's almost as if they never appeared.
Sure.
Going this way.
I agree with that then.
And here he kind of presents it to because the rich people are like, no, but what? Because he's like, hey, you liked the Prime Directive when it was in your favour. The fact that it's now not in your favour, now all of a sudden you're complaining about it. He is very kind of blasé about the way he says it, but it very much felt like to me like a teacher who the student had just realised the point of what they said before, and the teacher was rubbing it in their face. That's what it felt like.
You might have had some pretty bad teachers.
Not like a serious thing, but like I remember a smug look in a teacher's face once when I couldn't read my own handwriting because they'd been complaining about my handwriting for a while. It's like, you can't read your own handwriting, eh?
Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah.
I've been there.
I got that smug look, and to me that's... I mean, not that Picard was feeling smug in this scene per se, but it was kind of that vibe where it was like, hey, all of a sudden you understand what we're doing with this Prime Directive here. It's not just to benefit you. It is very neutral in that sense.
I think the key difference here is I felt like Crusher was talking him into helping the whole time. Like he wasn't really that into, he wasn't that concerned about getting involved, and Crusher was like, no, we have to do something. She's up for going against the Prime Directive and just getting in there and dealing it, and he goes for a more subtle approach, right?
Well, that's why he's a captain. He upholds the Prime Directive.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a case of not caring or not wanting to get involved. I think it's he fully, it's because he withholds the Prime Directive in a high standard, and that's why he won't just do it. That's why he refuses when Crusher actually tries to prod him. But I don't think it's that he doesn't care, that he doesn't want to help out in some way. I think he does. Maybe not as much as Crusher. Crusher's like gun ho. She's ready to, spear in and like give them some withdrawal medication, so they it'll still be painful, but it'll be easier to get over it.
She gives him some shit at the end, like after he does this, she's like, you just made a whole planet full of people about to go through withdrawal at once, and he's like, yeah, I am. He does the stops the elevator and be like, look, it's gonna happen anyway. They might as well just get over and done with.
See, again, your tone is completely wrong. What the? That is not the tone of this scene. He gives an inspiring little speech about the importance of the Prime Directive, and getting through it, and hoping through pain and whatever else he said. Like this was an inspiring little speech, and you're presenting it as like, it's fine, I'll get over it. Like,
I don't think it was that inspiring.
I'm not saying it moved me to tears. I'm saying that the intent in the scene was clear, that he was being a proud captain and talking about how they're supposed to interact with civilizations.
Yes. Yeah. No. What I meant is he wasn't overly sympathetic about them going through it, whereas Crusher was like, "No, we should have been doing more." Right? That was my point.
Yeah, but I don't think he was being cruel, though. I think he was.
No, I didn't say he was being cruel.
He was being very matter of fact with it, but I don't think he was like. It's like he knows it'll be tough. I don't think he's unaware of that. I don't think he's relishing that they're going to go through a tough time. I think he's just, it's going to be tough, but this is what was going to happen. So this is how it'll play out. Again,
that's what I said.
Going back to the Prime Directive, you put a tone on it. You gave him this voice. No.
Him going, well, I'll get through it.
That tone right there. No, that is not what he did.
That is nonchalant. It's like, yeah.
It was not nonchalant. No, I will fight you on that. It was not nonchalant.
It was.
No, it wasn't. It was Picard. Stern Picard.
It wasn't that stern.
It was. He's always stern. I'm not saying it's as stern as Picard, but this was Stern Picard.
Picard standards, I felt it was relatively nonchalant. It's like, look, it's not great that they're going through that, but it's better for the best in the long run.
Jean-Luc Picard has never been nonchalant in this show, and he may never be. Right? It's just not his character.
Relatively speaking.
He spoke this with honour, with grace, and this is why we have to do it this way. It's a firm set of beliefs. It was not, I don't want to get involved. Let them fend for themselves. I've got better things to do. I need to go polish my head. Like,
I was taking you seriously until you said that. I mean, I wasn't, but...
You just... Best scene of the episode, though, is when Wesley Crusher starts asking why people take drugs, and Tasha Yar, who's clearly done some extreme substances in her time, starts describing how it feels to be off your head on acid and how good it feels.
She had a well time at the academy, didn't she?
Well, I don't think people in Starfleet like find themselves, or at least people who go through the academy find themselves in these situations. You get the impression that things have changed, right? But for some reason, Tasha's the one person on the Enterprise who seems to have a history. It's probably when she was in the planet with the rape gangs. Drugs were probably a big thing there. And she probably did a lot of acid and mushrooms and whatever else.
Yeah.
Heroin, probably.
Oh, we're going for the biggie.
Well, I mean, this drug that they were talking about, this Felicium, seems to be closest to heroin than anything else, from what they're showing and describing.
Probably,
yeah. It's just funny though, because she's like, well, because it makes you feel good when you're on drugs, Wesley, but afterwards you feel bad. And I'm like, you're speaking from the experience here, Tasha.
Yeah. It felt a lot like maybe the drug is maybe morphine, in the sense that it actually had like a genuine medical purpose.
Yeah, that's true, because there was a plague once upon a time that it did cure. Yeah. So maybe morphine's a better comparison.
Yeah, and then they got hooked on it, and it's not too good now, is it?
Oh dear. Oh man. I almost want to come back to these planets, like, in like 5 seasons' time, and
just see the chaos.
Yeah, see what's happened because they went through withdrawal.
I hope they're at war, because they're like, you've been screwing us for 200 years.
How could they even be at war though? The Rich Planet doesn't have anything. How could they fight them? They don't know how
exactly. They'll have to learn quick, won't they?
They don't know how to make anything. Like the poor planet. I'm calling the poor planet, but
they'll figure it out when they start getting shot at.
They'll have like tanks and ships and weapons and all sorts.
Because they were more technologically advanced.
Yeah, and the rich planet will be like, we can give you more drugs. Throw drugs at them quick.
It's Vietnam all over again.
Oh god. Yeah, there you go. That's your drug PSA episode of Symbiosis. And obviously, I mean, look, this is the thing. It's a very clear message, and it's a very just one. Like, yeah, obviously, narcotics to get you addicted like this
probably not a good thing.
Are bad. They're always bad. I mean, unless used for medical reasons, obviously, and heavily monitored and whatever. But like, clearly, always bad. It's just the episode's just not very good at sending that message, and doesn't really build much of an interesting story. Arguably, the only interesting thing to come out of this episode really is the debate about the Prime Directive and how Picard just can't step in, and then he finds a way to kind of force it to happen in the near future. So
yeah, he seems to take the Prime Directive more seriously than Kirk ever did.
Than Kirk ever did, yeah.
Yeah.
Kirk, forgive the pun, shat on the Prime Directive.
Yes, I'm. You're gonna hate me with this, but I'm thinking of Pirates of the Caribbean. You know, the pirate code. Pirate code. It's more of a guidebook, really. You know, it's not strictly rules. I think that was how Kirk interpreted it.
No, Picard's a stickler for them.
He's really cares. To the letter of the law, isn't he?
Yes. Actually, I want to talk about. For some reason, the people from these planets can do like electric wave things,
and then it has no real impact at all on anything.
The only time it's used is that at one point they kind of like grab Riker, and Riker's like pretending to be still as they're like shocking him with juice. He's just kind of like, the whole time. It was kind of funny.
Like, there's a whole debate between Riker and Tasha about this ability. It's like, never seen that in humanoids before.
Yeah, it felt like it was building. Yeah, it felt like it was building something like maybe the drug gives them these powers. Maybe it was going to be
and they were talking about how much can they give out? Does it have to recharge? All these things. I'm like, oh, okay, and then nothing. Just forgot about it.
Oh well,
it meant nothing. It was pointless.
What's next then?
You tell me.
I'm good. I was just leading myself into it. The next episode 22, is called Skin of Evil.
That sounds promising.
Counselor Troy is held captive on a deserted planet by a slick, black, oily, sentient, and immortal puddle of evil. This sounds amazing.
I take back everything I just said.
Puddle of evil.
This might be in contention for episode of the season.
Oh, does the Naked Now have a contender?
It may. It may indeed.
Oh god, this sounds great. What was this one rate? I assume this one was low. No, this was a 7. Okay.
What's the next one?
6.9.
Like a 3. Oh, is that it?
None of them are that low. There's people like Tara who'll just go through and rate them all 10. So I mean, people drag them up.
Screw you, Tara.
In fact, I mentioned I was watching this one, and Tara, and I quote, said, "Oh yeah, that episode sucks. Still a 10 though."
You've just said something for her that something bad about Star Trek. Mm-hmm. It sucked, so she's gonna kill you now.
Yes, I'm spreading vicious rumours. But that is episode 21. Let us know what you thought of the episode in the comments below. You can like and subscribe, all that stuff. Get us on the Twitters at mail_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the show and the channel, everything we do here, you can have it at patreon.com/mailfuzztv. We can support us for as little as $1 per month, and you get bonuses and stuff early. You get these Star Trek reviews a week early. You can also check out all the stuff we do. We have reviews of the classic Twilight Zone going up every week now as well. I've been doing Babylon 5 here and there. So a lot of classic sci-fi stuff to check out. So that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching Star Trek, guys, and to everyone but Connor, live long and prosper.